Hey guys, it's Poohhead189, and I'm going to do a lore breakdown of the new Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim trailer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play it here, in its entirety, meaning the trailer, and then I'm going to analyze what we have. I'm certain you've seen the trailer already, and I'll put the timestamp below so you can skip the trailer if you wish to. But even if you've already seen it, I recommend watching it again anyway, since you're here to see me break it down. Also, when I begin my discussion, I won't comment on every image because some images or clips are so vague, we really have no information on it. But with that being said, here's the trailer.
All Middle-earth knows the tale of the War of the Ring. But 200 years before that,
Riders of the Mark! Brothers of Rohan!
there was an older tale.
Arise!
We come with an offer to strengthen Rohan.
Hera, daughter of Helm, I, Wolf, seek your hand in marriage.
Our fathers speak as if I were not even in the room. I do not want to marry you.
You do not seek an alliance. You seek a throne. You will live to regret this, old man. He's dead. You will pay for this with your life.
The boy I knew would never wish for war.
The boy you knew is gone.
Fire!
There's so many of them. I pledged to fight for my king.
You know nothing of war.
I'm the fastest rider you have.
People need hope, Hera. Something to believe in.
My pride. My joy. You could rule the world. You think I am afraid of you?
You should be.
What does Mordor want with rings?
That was pretty cool, right? Alright, first things first. This movie is being produced by New Line Cinema and is not a prequel to the Lord of the Rings books, but a direct prequel to the Lord of the Rings movies. Hence why we're seeing clips from the films. This is a tie-in to the Peter Jackson canon and his work with Philippa Boyens, Fran Walsh, and Stephen Sinclair. Also, the main writer for this movie is Philippa Boyens, who directly wrote a lot of the films, so that's a good sign. But knowing this is a prequel to the Jackson movies, we're already going to need to prepare for some departure from the books and the real canon. Not that the Lord of the Rings movies are hugely terrible for canon. I'm way more of a fan of their interpretation than the Rings of Power or the various video games. But still, we have to understand this is Jackson canon, not Tolkien canon. Okay, but let's begin. We see that as the first images come to us, the heraldry and the symbols on the Rohirrim are all reminiscent of the movies. We see some Mumakil and some strange green lights atop them. Not exactly sure what those are. Also, we need to discuss Kenji Kamiya. He's an incredible director with a lot of productions under his belt. Obviously, mostly animation productions. He directed Eden of the East and the supplementary additions to the anime, and I think Eden of the East is one of my all-time favorite anime. It's definitely underrated. He directed Ghost in the Shell, various others, and he was even a background artist for a few Studio Ghibli works. So this guy is the real deal. Anyway, let's continue. Alright, so we see the beginning of the coming conflict. Essentially in the canon, and I'll just explain the canon real quick, Helm, who is the 9th king of Rohan and of the first line of kings, is a good king but not the best diplomat. Yet he tries to rise above his baser instincts and often holds counsel with his lords. As a token of goodwill, he invites a man named Freka to his councils whenever he holds them. Freka is a powerful noble, though one could call him more of a chieftain, really, and he is supposedly of both Dunlending and Rohirrim blood. He claims he is a descendant of the 6th king of Rohan, but the claims are dubious. What we do know is that he owns a large swath of land and has many Dunlendings under his command, while still nominally being a subject of Helm. But he definitely does have a large amount of Dunlending blood in him. It's just that the Rohirrim blood is kind of dubious, we don't know. And he only comes to the councils that Helm holds when he thinks he can get something out of it, something Helm likely knows too well. So, in the year 2754 of the Third Age, Freka comes to a council with a retinue of many men, likely with the intention of intimidating Helm. Freka interrupts the council and demands his son, Wulf, marry Helm's daughter. Helm, seeing the insult for what it was, calls Freka fat, essentially, and his men laugh. Freka then begins to insult the king in a tirade, and Helm calmly tells him that they will discuss the marriage later. After the council is held, Helm leads Freka outside, telling him they can settle this outdoors. Once outside, he says he rejects Freka's proposal, and because of his insults, Helm punches Freka. We don't know if this was his intention or not, but that single punch kills Freka. Not immediately, but the stunned man eventually dies from the damage. Probably brain damage. We don't know exactly where he hits him, but he does hit him, probably in the head, and it's so hard that people then call Helm Hammer Hand for his single punch kill of Freka. Now in the trailer, we don't quite see that. It doesn't appear as if Helm is holding a council, but that he's simply entertaining guests when Freka walks in, and Freka appears to walk in and interrupt, rather than appear for the council and then interrupt later. We also see Helm's children, his sons Halath and Hama, who both share names with movie characters, or the movies used these canon names of Rohirrim history to help name their side characters. And we also see Helm's daughter, who in the movie is called Hera. Now, from here we get a major departure from the real canon. And to be honest, a major departure of the original script for the movie. You see, Philippa Boyens hired her daughter, Phoebe Gittins, and her writing partner, Artie Papagiorgio, to help flesh the script out. And the promotional material highlighting Helm Hammer Hand immediately gave way, and the younger, newer writers decided to make Hera the protagonist of the story instead of Helm. Or at least make her the point of view character. Now, whether you agree with that or not, it was Phoebe Gittins' decision. So the daughter of Philippa Boyens, who was brought in, and she really wanted to make Helm's daughter the major character, which is a major departure because, well, Helm's daughter is not called Hera in the story. In fact, she's never even named, because this entire story is from the appendices, and it's just a recollection of history. And she never really fights in a battle, or presumably rules over any land, or does anything significant. And Tolkien would have named her if she had, because there is no shortage of badass women in Tolkien. Yet here, they not only name her, but make her a large part of the story and what really appears to be the sole protagonist. And we see it here in the trailer, where she laments she has no choice in these matters, and she tells Wulf she does not wish to marry him, Wulf being Freka's son. Then we see the confrontation outside. Helm gives his ring to a man whom we assume is his nephew, Freylaf, who is actually the real hero of the entire tale in the canon other than Helm, but more about that later. Then, when the confrontation begins, it differs from the tale we hear in the books. Freka is the one that strikes first, which I think sort of takes away the nuance of the scene from the canon. In fact, I think much of how Freka and Helm interact has less nuance in this version, though it's still serviceable. I will say it's still serviceable. Freka batters at Helm before Helm takes him out in a single punch, like in the story. Unlike in the canon, he is not stunned and then dies, but he appears to die immediately, and in Wulf's arms. We never actually hear of Wulf actually being at the council where Freka dies, so Wulf being there is also kind of a departure. Wulf vows revenge against Helm, and then we see a small flashback between Wulf and Hera, where they once knew each other as children. This is completely false in the original narrative, but I don't mind its inclusion as it adds a bit of drama. Then we are given various images of the war, and we also see more Mumakil. Now, let's talk about the Oliphaunts. The inclusion of the Mumakil is a bit problematic, because the Haradrim are never stated to have fought in this war. During this time, they are attacking Gondor along with the Corsairs of Umbar, but it's the Dunlendings and what is most likely the Easterlings and various mercenaries that are fighting Rohan. And while there could be some men of Harad in their ranks, it's extremely unlikely that Mumakil could march all the way from Harad past Gondor and assault Rohan. The only way a large force of Haradrim could get to Rohan is by sea, and even then, a Mumakil, which is as large as a large house, likely is not being transported by ship, particularly in any real numbers. Anyway, what we have next is Hera seeing a massive army outside of Edoras, and earlier we do see an image of Edoras burning. With Hera, we also see it is the same place that she is standing, where Éowyn was standing and watched Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli arrive in the Two Towers, further connecting this to the movies. We see Hera arriving to a place via a horse, yet when she walks indoors, she is wearing different trousers. This likely means she has arrived at a different place and merely placed the two clips together, and considering she claims she is the fastest rider to her father, Helm, it's very likely her main role is going to be a messenger and a scout, likely between Edoras and Dunharrow, where Freylof, who is the nephew of the king and later becomes the heir, goes to add his men, meaning to Dunharrow, as the winter comes. This is also likely the reason why she is traveling in the snow, and how one of the eagles greets her, as she would have to traverse the mountains to get to Dunharrow. Suffice to say, there are no great eagles in the book canon of this tale, but here we are. My theory of her mostly being a courier is also backed up by the fact that Phoebe Gittins said, while Hera can wield a sword since she is a daughter of kings, she did not want her to go for the basic badass warrior princess that she believes has become a cliché. And we hear from her and the other writers that they want Hera's tough choices to be her greatest battle, rather than simply cutting men apart. So while she is in a lead role, she will likely not be doing a ton of fighting, but rather try her best to keep her family and kingdom alive as they wage a war and she helps in the effort. Then the trailer then shows Helm speaking to her like a father, and it also shows Hera being chased by a riderless Mumakil, when some thing from the water attacks it and drags it into the small lake. This is clearly a member of the species that we call the Watcher in the Water, although for some reason, this one is far larger than the last, because while we never know how large it is in the books to make it scarier, in the movies we see it explicitly, and it's not as big as a Mumakil. Yet here it's big enough to drag what's likely a 23-ton animal into the water. And for some reason, it also has a tree on its head. We see some shots of Hera rock climbing, wading through a tense melee, and we also see various clips of them in the snow. Now, the winter that's going on right now is called the Long Winter, and it's pretty much a large blizzard that lasts between November and March. And this is also the same long winter that the Hobbits record, meaning the winter where Gandalf first met the Hobbits. And this movie is taking place 183 years before The Lord of the Rings begins. So this is the time when Gandalf gets to know the Hobbits. And also this is the same winter where large wolves attack the Shire. So I think Gandalf also helps with that. Anyway, then we have some more shots of Wolf and what appears to be Wolf and Hera in mortal combat as riders stream down from the same hill Gandalf and Éomer arrived at during the climax of the second movie. And then, of course, we have at the very end of the trailer where it appears that an orc has gone around collecting rings he has likely found from corpses. Now, this last part gave me chills, and I thought it was super cool. As long as it's only a minor inclusion of the story, I enjoy things alluding to bigger things while not invading the plot. Anyway, that's the end of the trailer. All in all, I think the movie and the voices are beautiful. I think the trailer is suitably epic. And while I do think some of the added bits are slightly unnecessary, and I really hope Hera's plot does not derail the real plot we all want to see, I'm definitely not against her having an expanded role. We'll just have to see if they can balance it well or not. Anyway, that's my breakdown of the trailer. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you think I deserve it, and I always welcome your thoughts and comments. Okay, thanks guys.